I have the other fuel tank installed. The only thing I've noticed, both tanks, I'm going to need to come in and do an L bracket. So either I'll do that out of a piece of angle iron, or I do need to go to the hardware store and pick up some 90-degree angle, 90-degree L brackets for some lighting up front, and need 3 of them for the tanks. The front one just has one mount, which just keeps it more secured. I need some fuel line too, so I can make it, I could do that on another day. I probably won't show that on video, but we have 2 tanks installed. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to run them together, or if I'm just going to have one with a valve and just use it as a reserve. But I kind of like the tanks more off to the side. It adds more to the hillbilliness of Cousin Bubba. So I guess what else we can knock out for today, I'm going to look through my hoard of parts, find some of the big hose clamps. I'll go ahead and run a hose clamp on each side, then the basket is secured. So now I have a spot I can just, like I said, dump work gloves, whatever, because it's going to be for all around purpose type vehicle. I could also get in here and clean the little cubby holes out. That's slap full of junk. So I don't know. I guess let me just figure out what I'm going to work on next, because I did do so much yesterday. I could, if I could find some angle iron, I could come in here and finish making the back hold down for the bed. Now I've been debating on if I wanted to go ahead and bolt this bed back down permanently, besides the painting, which I could technically slip my hands up underneath and do. If anybody knows anybody that's built a mud mower, you can kind of see that frame is tweaking a little. So I would like to actually take and do a lot of reinforcement, like take some angle iron, come across here, maybe run a bar from here, tie it into this point, even do a diagonal X across the bottom. I don't want this frame to snap, and it's just better to reinforce it. But for a test run, we just might go ahead and kind of reassemble it, and I can come back to some of this stuff. So let me figure out what's next, and I'll bring you back along. So after much deliberation, what I decided is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take a piece, because you see you got about a half-inch seam. That's where this cheap garden cart would have came in a box. You would have assembled it. So what I'm going to do is, I hope you can see this, I'm going to put a piece of angle iron on the back of this, where it's going to come right by up underneath the truck bed. And I'm going to tack weld it on the corners. I'm going to cut 2 pieces about 15 inches long, so it supports the whole back of this truck bed right off this point. What I'll do then is I'll prop the truck bed up, come in and weld it, and it should be a very solid mount. There won't be no more rock to it, and it will give me that perfect, it'll be right on each side of that slit, so the truck bed should be dead solid. I think that's what I decided to do. I'm going to go ahead and mount this up. So I'm going to go ahead and knock that out real quick, and we should be on the way to getting Cousin Bubba back assembled. I'm going to do this off camera. Here's a scrap piece of angle, which was it was probably from a bed frame at one point. But there's nothing sacred around here. Every bit counts. I figured I'm going to go ahead and show the front bed mounts. And it's nothing more than some through bolt, or threaded rod, whatever you call it, and a spacer. This would have been, I think, a bumper mount for the original golf cart. So I utilize that hole, stick that right in there, drop this all the way through, cinch it together, and the front of the bed gets tightly mounted. Went ahead and put these on. I might have to trim this one just like a fraction, nothing major. Some scrap angle, and since I had some holes in it already, all I gotta do is drill my holes from underneath. I'll probably put 1 on each side or 2 on each side on the outer part, and that will cinch the bed down. So I'm going to go ahead and knock that out real quick, and we'll get going on finishing the installation of the bed. So as we got Cousin Bubba kind of basically back disassembled, still waiting on finishing up the fuel tanks, and I'm going to take it on a test drive. Darn train is coming through. Hopefully it don't interfere with our video. We're going to pause a second while it runs. The main thing, since I know I have it in neutral, I am going to create some kind of reverse lockout maybe something that comes up like a U, which I do have some exhaust clamps. So what I might do is just put a U in there that just drops in. It's got a little handle, you can pull it out to go into reverse. So that way if I'm playing with it, the worst case I could just throw it in neutral. But I wanted to lift this thing, and I was looking through my stuff that I brought in from the old shop, because this thing has a leaf spring that goes up underneath it, and I don't know if we can see. Yeah, we can kind of see down there. So what I was thinking is to do a cheap lift. There's 4 bolts that hold that leaf spring in place. I was thinking about undoing the 4 bolts, jacking this thing up, and slipping like a 3-inch lower / lift block in the center. Oops, sorry guys. So if I do, I can maybe cheaply lift it that way just by slipping a block in there, and it will give me 3 inches of lift. That's what I was thinking. A cheap, simple lift. Put about 2-3 inches on the front. Thinking a 3-inch block would have been perfect. It would have raised the front. I would have just had to play with the geometry, because I mean, this thing's not going to be on the road. It's not like we have to have it dead perfect. So I'm going to keep looking through my hoard of stuff. Worst case, if I can't find it, I have some 2x4 box steel. Worst thing, I could just make my own lift block. I mean, they're not that complicated. The only difference, I guess I can make it to the height I want, so I don't know what. I guess what I'm going to end up doing right now is I'm going to measure from this lower corner to the ground, and hopefully we're almost level enough, and I'll measure that. I would just want to get it roundabout. I just want to get the front lifted up just a little bit. So I think that's the next thing I'm going to do, is just play around with it and see what I get from there. So here's what I got right now. I went ahead and jacked up the front, put it on jack stands. So I'm approximately 1 foot. 1 foot here, 12 inches. 13 inches was to the back. So, you know what? Let me put you on this little tripod. I want to just double check something to make sure, just see where I'm at. So the back has actually gone up 2 inches. But in theory, I kind of like the way how the front end sits up a little bit higher. Now the other side is sitting kind of leaning to that side, but that shouldn't be an overall problem. Let me take all underneath, kind of show you what I got going on. You can kind of see the homemade mount. This is part of the original chassis, where all this stuff bolts up. That comes through these bolts to this plate. Now I thought the leaf spring was directly bolted through these, so it's not, which is good on my end. So I just have 4 small bolts. In theory, the leaf spring should be able to drop down, and I can put my spacer of sorts in there. So that means the bolts, I just have to buy 4 a little bit longer bolts. I'm not having to use through bolts or anything, thread or rod. But what I'm hoping is that the leaf spring is going to come down, forcing this up, basically doing like a traditional lift. So I think I'm going to get playing around with that, trying to get those loose, being careful, because I am still on jack stands and I don't want this thing falling on me. So I guess without further ado, it's time to go ahead and try to make a very cheap, simple lift for the front of this thing. Because again, this thing it's a contraption. It's not an on-road vehicle. Here is I guess it'd be like, I don't know what they would prefer this to. Basically, you have this at the very bottom. The leaf spring sits over across the top, then the rest of the frame structure, and this is what would have pinched the leaf spring against the main frame. Now what we're doing, this is going to be lower down. The block, no, I'm sorry. This would be on the lower part. The leaf spring is going to ride still over this, and above this is going to be the spacer. Let's see, get back under here. And you can see right now, that's what the space that I've achieved so far. There is a hole right through the center because that would have been the head of this bolt. That's how you keep your leaf spring centered normally on most normal vehicles, and I guess this is going to be no exception. So the question is, if I put a jack under here and lift, will that give me the achieved desired lift that I'm looking for going under there? Now, I guess we could do that. Put the jack under there, and if I need to, I could reposition the jacks. So that way I know I wanted to get approximately 4 inches of lift, give or take. Probably 3 inches, I believe. 3 to 4 inches, I'd be happy. So that's going to be the next step, is to get that done. Still trying to figure out exactly all the ins and outs and how I'm doing this. So, I mean, this is not exactly standard to lift your golf cart, but this isn't a standard golf cart. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'll do this off camera. I'm going to put the jack right up under this lip, jack it up to see if I can get that leaf spring to drop a hair. I want to see if I can get this body to go up. So here it is. Scrap piece of 2x4 box steel, and this stuff was super expensive. It came in a 30-foot stick, I believe. And this stuff's not thin at all. So what I did was I measured on there's bolts on the top of the part of the frame that hold the rest of the assembly, and to stay kind of in between them, I wanted to run the entire width of that piece, so that way the weight of the leaf spring transfers back up into the frame, and I come up with about 7 inches. So I went ahead and I marked 7 inches. I'm going to do this off camera. I'm just use the angle grinder with a cutoff wheel. I'll go ahead and trim this piece out, and I will need something like something. Hang on, guys. Sorry about that. That's one of those, I don't know, like Indian fraud calls that I get literally all the time, alerting me about my credit card, which I own no credit cards, so I don't know what that's all about. But getting back to this piece. So we got 7 inches wide, 4 inches tall, 2 inches, actually 4 inches tall, 2 inches wide, 7 inches long. Right here in the center, I'm going to have to create some kind of stud, something that would, it kind of helps keep this piece centered, keeps it from coming loose. Also, when I flip this to the bottom, I need to put, it's like a little stud or something. I got to look at that. Actually, no, I'm sorry. On the bottom, they got some, it's a round-headed bolt. So on the bottom side, I'm going to actually have to create like a hole. I'll use a hole saw for that. And on top, I got to create a stud to keep the thing from coming loose. So basically, when you'll have the frame up here, you'll have this piece, and you'll have the leaf spring down here, and you'll re-put that bottom plate and run your bolts back through. The top is going to keep the stud coming out, keeps it from wanting to shift forward, and the bottom hole keeps it from wanting to kick outward. It's going to catch on the edge and stay in there. And your standard lift and lowering blocks are going to be the same way. So I guess I'll go ahead and fab this piece up and get it ready. We'll get it fabbed up, and hopefully we'll get it be able to install it and lower the vehicle down while I'm waiting to go get bolts for the plate to put everything back together. Less than 5 minutes. Customized homemade lift block. There's the round hole that I indicated. That's just about center. The round bolt head is actually just a little bit smaller in that hole. So that way, to put it in, basically I'm just going to slip it in where this stud goes in that upper hole. Then I'll just slide it in. Once it's in place, might just go ahead and lower it off the jacks just to test everything out, see how it stance, and then find the appropriate bolts to... Basically, I'm going to have to run them from the bottom. I'm going to go from that plate straight up and put the nut on the top. It's a little bit reversed because the other way, there was enough room to slip the bolt to the top frame section and come down and grasp that bottom plate. So it's just going to be a little bit different, but homemade, cheap, 4-inch lift. I guess I'm going to go ahead and try to install this. I'll do that off camera as well, and I'm going to bring you guys back as soon as I get that done. Unfortunately, I just found a flaw to my design. Good idea to throw that in, but I didn't take a look back here. If you notice the little steering arm that connects it from side to side is unfortunately basically almost touching the frame. So 2-inch looks like is going to be the absolute most that I'm going to be able to slide in here. It's very unfortunate, kind of sucks, but there's nothing I can do. So I think I'm going to actually just leave it like that. I'm just basically going to remodify this since that bolt isn't going to do anything. Drill this same, basically do this same setup, except it's going to be here and the big hole in the bottom, and I'll just slip it in like that, and that will give me the 2 inches of lift. I guess is better than no lift. So I'm not gonna sit here and put another $200-300 more into a proper lift for the front when it's just not going to be needed. I mean, yeah, I can get creative. I could use the I guess that'd be a tie rod, whatever you want to call this. I guess I could drill holes dead in the center of the frame in the I-beam and run it through the center of the frame. But again, I'm not going to sit here and modify this even more or make the frame more dangerous than whatever this contraption is. So I'm just going to refab this, and we'll just go ahead and leave it with a 2-inch lift. 2 inch is better than nothing. So we'll just go ahead and lift the front too, and we'll continue on. I'm going to just do the rest of this off camera because this has become a pain in the tail right now. Couldn't give up without at least getting that block in there, getting it off the jack stands. I'm happy. It's still only a 2-inch lift, but you know what? Didn't cost me a single thing. I still got to put the bottom plate in, which is sitting right there on top of the body, and go get the bolts. So I've taken one of the bolts with me. Tomorrow after work, I'll swing by the hardware store. So whatever the diameter is, plus I'll add 2.5, maybe 3 inches taller. And I can at least, it's high enough now, I can actually kind of crawl up under there and bolt that up. So 2 inches, yeah, I'm happy. I mean, literally, this thing is just it's just a beater around the old farm. Increased the clearance. The bar, by setting it back down, it gave me a little bit more of some room, so I'm happy with that. So it's not directly on the frame. Still got some more work to do under this front end. I've got wiring where I've extended the original wiring harness to the mower like 2 foot, 3 foot. So all these wires were fully extended. I still want to wire loom them and get them up there nice and neat. I've got little gauges I need to hook up. All the flip switches are wired, but they don't go to nothing. So there's still more wiring to do, and I'm going to leave that for a total separate video. Wiring, hooking up accessories. Like I said, I wanted a light bar on top, and if nothing else, I think I found some of these LED squarish rectangle style lights. I can maybe make them fit, maybe make them look good in the original headlights. Like I said, this is a budget beater. This isn't a professional golf cart by any means. And the whole point of this, to be creative. I really haven't spent much money on this project lately. Everything I've been trying to reuse and just make it as I go along. Let's take another look at this. See clear straight to the other side. So like I said, a 2-inch lift is better than no lift. Now, I mean, I could have went and bought a Jake's lift, and they make other brands. But do I really want to invest that kind of money into this cart? Where we've just been playing with it, making concoction of a little bit of everything fit on this. So I don't know. I haven't really figured out what the next plan is. I know I need to go ahead and make a list of all the nuts and bolts I need to purchase while I'm at the hardware store, so I can knock that out. Just thought about it. The next major crucial thing I forgot to do, I should have done it before mounting this bed, which if I have to, I can just take the tires off. I did forget to make a mount that goes from this hole to the frame. So I do need to make those, and that's the front transaxle mounts. I think we'll do that and possibly go ahead and finish the fuel tanks and take it on a test run. So stay tuned to the next set of clips as we continue along.